Game of the week this week is this is Touhou, Immortal Immanuel. This is a Chinese Touhou fan game, which doesn't have any English support. And if you look at the screen here, you can see this is in English, but none of the other options are in English. I actually had to use take a screenshot and use Google Translate to translate the screenshot to figure out what option was which, because like I wanted to remap the buttons to have, like slow and shot and bomb on the places that I usually have them. But it wasn't too bad to change everything. It was kind of a pain, but this is, I think, a really fun kind of fan game. This not have sound? Was this the one that didn't have sound? This one should have sound, but okay, this does have good. So VLC does give me sound, all right. So this is Touhou Immortal Immanuel, like I was saying. It's a kind of fun fan game. It's interesting to see the, oh no, maybe it was just the fact that it didn't have sound because let me check it later on. Okay. It didn't have sound because I forgot to, at the beginning of the game, it didn't have, again, the recording options screw up all the time in OBS, so I had to change it. Got a fun, typical Touhou game. Some really interesting parts. If you look at the sort of background, like here, they went with like a 3D background, which is, it's an interesting look. I don't know if I like it a lot, but it does give it a look that I haven't seen before. And your typical type of Touhou gameplay, which is nice. It's just really easy to see projectiles, and to show off, I think one of the best. Well, actually, let me first. The game does have some issues, and I'll show you here. I think they do a lot of experimentation with some of these patterns, and it's cool that they tried new stuff and different stuff, but I feel like some of the stuff does not do well. Let me see if I can show off a pattern here that where are the, let's see, did I miss it? The lasers here. I thought she had a pattern where she does lasers, but maybe it's only on certain patterns. They've got like a lot of stuff like this. A lot of like laser patterns what they move across, which is okay. It's a little bit different than just dodging like waves of bullets. One of the best, I think the Stage 3 was probably the game at its best, where it made a very, it sort of starts off with a really like nice, calm music, but then it has these sort of like rain. They even have like rain effects on the screen, which is kind of neat. And then make the bullet patterns look like rain. You have to kind of dodge through. And they start with, these sort of like blue colored bullets. But as the stage goes on, you kind of, you beat this boss here. Kind of like a little mini boss in the middle of the stage. And then it sort of like starts with these sort of rainbow colored bullets. Kind of like as the rain subsides, rainbow appears. So, I like aesthetically the theme of the stage. I think it worked out really well, and it looks really nice. I think that's one of the things I like about the kind of Touhou series is they do try to make this stuff look really pretty. But it does have some issues, and let me try and kind of look into it. They do like some weird stuff, like in this, one of these patterns they zoom in, so it's harder to see some stuff coming, which I guess is fine, but it's just like it's the only place it ever happens. So I don't know why they do it in one thing. Like they kind of try and keep you guessing, but they almost do it a little bit too much. over here, this is, I think, one of the most intense fights. They do a lot of like strange things. Like they have patterns that look like this, which I like the density of this stuff. Which is kind of neat. But they also like do sections like this, which there's no like, there might be some enemies, but I kill them off screen. A lot of like stuff coming through, and then this changes to like sections like this, and they have these laser stuffs, laser attacks where you can see a clear line here and here, but they don't really define the fact that the in between is they have empty space here, which kind of makes you think the middle area is safe. But as you can see, it's not. It's clearly a full laser. So some of the visuals on this are not quite as good. And if you look at this game, I'll probably talk about it next week, but this is a really cool demo. Touhou Makasai 3. The demo's out, and it looks gorgeous. I mean, they just do such a good job. I mean, when you look at, let's see if I can find the pattern here. Oh yeah, we got the actual boss fight here. So I mean, when you look at when they do the, let me try to turn this down. It's a little loud. When they have their own sort of like laser patterns here. You can see they do a really good job of saying like, hey, this entire thing is going to be a hittable space. Like you got to get out of it. Get out of that section. And they give you time, and it sort of like turns. Notice it turns from transparent to a very, dark red to show you like when it's going to go off too. And these visual cues, I think, just make it's easier to dodge, but it also like visually kind of tells you, okay, like I need to get out of this area, and here's how fast I need to get out of it. It just makes interpreting it a lot nicer, especially when you have a genre that tons of stuff is going on. And this, again, kind of does it the same way. It looks really kind of menacing. And you can clearly see, like, hey, I don't want to be where the black is. The black is what's going to hit. And I get a little too close to that and get trapped in there. I guess you don't want to be at the center of the cut either. But this is done well. And unfortunately, Immortal Immanuel, it's not quite done as well in that aspect. They have like a lot of weird sections like this where you have to just sort of like dodge in these small areas. This was another thing that they don't do super well. This is their indicator that you need to get to that center area. But they also have the enemy right there where the bullets usually generate. So it's almost kind of a confusing... it's almost like a contradiction. Okay, I need to get right next to the enemy that's probably going to shoot out bullets. But I mean, she obviously doesn't shoot bullets out. And like you have this where it doesn't hit you, but it kind of looks like it's a bullet. But you have to kind of move right into it. At some point, it's going to become an actual hitbox. You have to kind of like stay in the center here and dodge this. So visually, this game didn't do as good a job as, this game did. And that's one of the criticisms I have of this game. But I think overall, it's a very fun Touhou style shooter. If you enjoy that stuff, it's only $10. So they're not going to break your bank on it. And it's a good time. I enjoyed playing through it. I'll probably play through it a little more too. Maybe try to get the endings with everybody. But this is normal. I think this is one of the better bosses of the game. I think, visually and like aesthetically, they kind of fit pretty well. It's got bubbles. It's got the stuff like coming down like rain. It's got like a aquatic theme on it. But, it has lasers. Then they really like lasers. They really like having a lot of different style bullets. Almost too much. Different styles of bullets to the point where it doesn't really make sense. Again, they have like when you look at this like bullet, laser pattern, Like if the other lasers before, if you're not supposed to stay in the center, but in this one the center is good. Like you can dodge between this too. So like you see this, like, is in between these lasers and these lasers okay? It's very similar to the visually of the past lasers, but I guess you could stand in between that and in between that. So some of the stuff they do just is a little confusing visually, like where's safe and where isn't. And again, like here, you need to. I really didn't like this pattern because again, here's where it's supposedly safe. This is literally where the enemy is. Like, your instincts is to avoid getting right to the center of the enemy because again, bullets usually generate from the enemy. So you kind of back up here, and then all of a sudden you're right there at the right where the pattern's going to hit. So you end up getting hit. So again, like it kind of, this is where it's going to be. Apparently this is where you need to be, this red circle, but then it expands. Like, why would it expand like that? That kind of indicates that, hey, you're fine now. So you can back up a little bit, but then you get hit in there. Which, this pattern's really cool. I kind of like the way they have this sort of circular pattern. Visually, it's neat. It's kind of different. I just bomb here because I don't want to try and dodge. I'm not that good at dodging it. Yeah. And then again, they have waves, which is very cool. Again, I think this is probably the best looking fight out of all of them. Get the spell card again. All right, so you have to stay in the center here. And then they have stuff like this. I did not like. This is so confusing to know where to dodge. And you have these hitboxes. You have to avoid them. To me, it's a little bit too different. You have to, again, kind of interpret it where you need to, where it's safe and where it isn't. I just barely dodged that. And then they have this. Then they have this. This is another. The timer is at 38 seconds. You have to get in these bubbles, which you're supposed to somehow know the bubbles are safe and not a hitbox. But I guess they kind of indicate visually by the fact that this background hits you, but the foreground doesn't. And you have to stay in these bubbles to avoid this whatever this is. I don't even know if this is like some sort of lightning wave here. And you have to do this for, like, again, 40 seconds, which these seem to drag on a little bit too long. Sometimes I don't necessarily like these patterns, and they do them way too much in this game. Like, almost every boss has a pattern. You have to sort of just dodge. So this drags on. And then this is sort of the final one, which I think this pattern's pretty cool. They kind of bring you, again, you kind of restrict your space and have this stuff kind of rotating. An interesting thing is this is a pretty interesting pattern. I kind of like it. But there are some other place, like the boss, like some of this stuff is like visually. The final boss is visually kind of a mess. Like, again, red. The background's red. The arrows are red. This will make it so easy to see. Thank you. Then it just these weird. Like, I don't know. I have no idea what's hittable and what isn't in this square pattern. It's so confusing. I just like, as it gets thicker, I assume I try not to get hit by it, but it makes no sense. This entire pattern makes zero sense, like what's going to kill me and what doesn't. This is, I think, the worst part of this game is they did so many strange things visually that, in my opinion, don't work. But still, but I don't want to be too harsh on it. It's a smaller, I'm sure this is like a smaller studio. And it's still a lot of fun. They'll have like good patterns and they'll have bad patterns, in my opinion. Like I like this one. Again, they kind of they restrict it with bullets, which is easy to understand. And then they have these sort of things coming in between. You have to dodge between these things. And you have to dodge. You got swords coming. And you got to dodge in between these while dodging the swords. Pretty cool. And then they have this sort of like maze that you got to go into while dodging stars. And again, stars, and they have swords. I think at some point you just got to like kind of stick with like maybe a small palette of bullets and not just throw in every possible like bullet shape you can into these things, because you got arrows, you got swords, you got stars. I guess they they're throwing everything in the extra stage. I'm not going to show it, but they just throw everything in it. Like this is every shape of bullet, every style of bullet. It made visually no sense. And then you kind of look at this and what they did with this game, and it just really kind of shows you just how good the guys that did Touhou Maki Sai here just know how to stick to a visual theme and make it really good. Because really the patterns here only use a few types of colors and a few types of bullet shapes. It does have variety. It's got the red, it's got the white, and they throw in like a little like tinge of blue here. But it's almost just an accent. I end up getting hit here. It's unfortunate. And just having a consistent, aesthetically consistent pattern makes it all the cooler. Again, I get hit here, so I'm trying to find my way through it. But again, it's at the red, it's got the white, even like the blue is kind of whitish too. So it looks so much better visually than Immortal Immanuel does. And I'll probably review this next week as my game of the week. But Immortal Immanuel, it's got, like I said, it's just fun. The gameplay itself, the core is there. There's just a few kind of annoying things that I almost wish they refined it a tad bit more, and were a bit more consistent on making kind of visually understandable. And this is sort of the final, which I like the final pattern of the boss here, as it's got a lot of like bullets going at you, but you can kind of understand it. Like here, I need to dodge these. It's not a laser or some sort of maze. It's just straight up dodging different patterns. As it kind of like tries to restrict your space and hit you with bullets that kind of home in on your position. Very standard issue bullet hell pattern here. As I get the clear on normal, it's pretty good. But that's my game of the week, Touhou Immortal Immanuel. If you don't want to go through, again, it's only Chinese language support. It's not English, so if you wanted to play it, you'd have to deal with that a little bit. But it's really not much. This is one of the beautiful things of shoot 'em ups is there's a story here. People are talking a story. I love this like visual ending. You don't get the story, but you don't really need the story. It's a very action oriented game. You're not losing anything out by not understanding this.